This episode of Earl Grey is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek FM at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org.
You're listening to Trek FM.
Tea Earl Grey hot.
Welcome, listeners, to another cup of Earl Grey, Trek FM's dedicated podcast to the next generation. I'm your host, Amy Nelson. Richard is away this week, but joined with me is Justin Ozer. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing great. So this is interesting because as we record this, it's a couple of days from Star Trek Las Vegas. But when this comes out, it'll be a couple of days after Star Trek Las Vegas ends. So I guess I can say here, we had a really great time, didn't we, Amy?
We did. I am confident in saying that.
Oh my God, yes. Seeing all the hosts and listeners, the panels were amazing. There was some earth-shattering news there, too, which I can't talk about here because it'll spoil the future.
Yes.
But it was awesome.
Don't be messing with the timeline.
Yep.
Well, we have some Babel conference feedback from the Chase. That was Earl Grey 237. So Justin, why don't you start us off? I wasn't on this episode, so...
All right. Well, that was the one that Chase and Panspermia, where we had guests from the Strange New Worlds podcast, Mike Wong and Elise Cutts. And the first comment is from Stefan Ringlein, who says, "Wow, what an extraordinary episode. The science behind a favorite episode of mine was sweet. Mike and Elise did a great job in explaining it. I could have easily listened to another hour." Well, thank you so much. So glad you enjoyed it and you wanted even more. That's always a good sign, I think.
That's a great, comment. Wow. Matthew Bell said, "So great to have Mike Wong back again. I too first caught him on The Edge and immediately started checking out his back catalog. He and his colleagues make science fun and extremely accessible." Yes, they do, for sure.
Yeah, it was... God, there's so much I learned in that episode, and I'm sure that a lot of our listeners did as well. So I'm really glad that the people enjoyed it. Yeah. And then Patrick Carlin says, "We do know what we're going to be. We're going to be salamanders. Threshold reference for the win. Hashtag Team Lizard Babies." Could always count on Patrick for one of those references. We were talking about salamanders and future evolution, de-evolution. So appreciate that you got that reference. And I think in the Babel conference, I said that there could be an alternate episode where there's like a future salamanderoid, actually from the past, who's talking to these salamander Romulan and Klingon and humans and Cardassians. So That was a lot of fun.
Johnson Lai, "It was interesting and sad that this important archaeological discovery was never referenced again in Trek. But then I wondered if anyone recorded the alien message. Can it be played again by assembling the DNA sequences? Or are the people present the only people who know about this? Thus, why Picard wished the message hadn't fallen on such deaf ears?"
It's a really interesting question. I mean, you would think this is like a huge discovery and Picard still has a tricorder with the sample and, they could distribute that through whatever media they have. But we don't really even see much of media in the 24th century. Like 24th century pretty much at all. You see a little in the 22nd and 23rd century. But yeah, we don't know what happens. They just kind of drop it, never reference it again.
Yeah.
So I hope that if we have some series in the future that takes place, post Nemesis or post the Chase, that they make some reference or talk about some of the ramifications, because that would be really cool.
Yeah, it's a great episode, and that is a great question. Yeah. All right, well, let's get on to today's discussion. We have with us a special guest. This is the host of Trek FM's Continuing Mission and the creator of our wonderful artwork on Earl Grey, Tony Robinson.
Hi.
Tony, welcome to Earl Grey.
Yes, thank you. I'm overwhelmed, and it's a real pleasure. Yeah, fascinating.
Well, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Continuing Mission in case they haven't been listening, which you should, listeners.
Well, let's start with Continuing Mission. That's a podcast that's dedicated to discussing fan-made productions, fan-made Star Trek productions, and there's lots of people involved in making their own fan movies, and not just actors, but writers, camera people, storytellers. I meet an amazing bunch of people, or talk to an amazing bunch of people. One guy, even, whose name is Ray Tessie. I shouldn't call him one guy, but Ray Tessie, if you listen to one of my podcasts, recently just bought the studios where the fan movie Star Trek Continues was made. And that ran for 11 episodes, and Star Trek Continues was probably the pinnacle of all fan movies because it closely resembled the original Star Trek series with William Shatner in it. And they did everything they could to make that series look like they had just picked up where season 3 had kind of finished back in the 60s. And the camera work was fantastic. They even filmed in a 4:3 format, and they did everything they could. And they obviously came to an end, but what would happen to the studios? Well, there are fans out there that love to make Star Trek movies of their own, and they need a place to film. So if you're in Kingsland, Georgia, and you're willing to make a Star Trek movie, then contact Stage 9 Studios and get a uniform and a camera, and you are away. But yeah, you meet a lot of people in this business who are so dedicated, and if they could get paid for their efforts, or if they could be absorbed into the greater canon of Star Trek, then the medium would be much richer for their input. So they do a great, great job. Okay. But I also wear another hat. You didn't mention.
Yes.
A certain musically themed podcast.
Oh, that is right. Yes.
So one of our more popular podcasts on Trek FM is called Melodic Tracks. And Melodic Tracks discusses the music of Trek, not just the actual pieces of music played throughout the movies or TV shows, but an in-depth look at the composers and the people who contribute their talents and art to that form. And Melodic Tracks kind of slowed down and came to a bit of a stop in November of 2017, and then suddenly burst back on its audience in June, I think it was, or July of 2018. And so far, the reception has been fantastic. If you love Star Trek music, or if you like listening to what composers have to say about their music, then tune in to Melodic Tracks, hosted by our very own Brandon Shea Mutala, who does a great job hosting that show. But yeah, I look after the production side of that show as well.
Yeah.
So I'm a Trek FM true blue kind of person.
All right. Well, this was your idea, and it might have a little bit of influence with your Melodic Treks influence there. So you wanted to talk about the musical instruments and like what bands they would be in, and just all the instruments that show up on Next Generation. And I thought, wow, what a great idea. So usually when you think about Next Generation, like the first thing that comes to mind is Riker's trombone. But we definitely see other characters play other instruments. And so we are going to launch into that discussion. So I think it was great, Tony, for you to come up with this idea, and looking forward to seeing what bands or musical groups that we can get for these characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with all that music going around the Enterprise, it's a wonder they have time to fight off the enemy or discuss some scientific anomaly that they've come across. No, so
Exactly.
Commander Riker, can you report to the bridge? Oh, sorry, I'm in the middle of my band practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it must be crazy at times.
Yes. Well, so we do see Riker's trombone in Conundrum 11001001. We see him Future Imperfect, Second Chances, Thine Own Self, and The Next Phase. So this is probably the character that we see the most often playing an instrument and consistently the same instrument. Yeah?
I think that's true. At least from the research that we've done, it seems like you see Riker playing trombone more than you see any other character playing a specific instrument. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we see Data, he sort of alternates because he's exploring the human condition and stuff like that. But Riker is consistently the trombone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had this kind of idea about Riker and his trombone and where that came from and what he did before he joined Starfleet. And I imagined that he was part of a high school band, especially one of those marching bands that you see at the college football final when they all get on the, the halftime thing. And
Yeah.
Yep.
and I'm
halftime
sure
show.
he was there actually because there was one guy that stood out. He had a trombone in the Kansas State college game, and they marched in formation and they made the shape of the Enterprise. Did you see that?
Oh,
one?
right. Yeah.
Oh my
think I saw
gosh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's on. Look it up. It's on
Wow.
YouTube.
It was maybe like a year ago or something.
Go
right?
back maybe 1 or 2
Yeah.
years, and you'll see
1 or 2
the
years.
the
That's very
halftime game show, and the band come on and they form Enterprise, and even shoots if I'm correct, even shoots a photon torpedo at a Klingon, D7 or something, bird of prey.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was Riker. I'm sure it was Riker that was doing it.
Yes.
So I'm sure that's where he
must have been.
started, getting his love.
Well, if Starfleet Academy has a marching band, surely he was part of it, right?
Yeah, he was probably there up front and center with, taking people's eyes out with that
Oh,
arm thing.
yeah.
Yeah, and I forgot to look up and I wanted to. What's the name of that song that he always misses the note?
Oh man, I don't know. Which one is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can think of a few notes. It's like, dur, 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 and just like misses the note.
Every single time, even at his birthday. That was in Second Chances, yeah.
And I think it's funny because like Jonathan Frakes himself, I think, is an accomplished trombone player. So he had to, has to fake missing notes and
Had
stuff.
to flub it up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's great acting then.
Well, they say that in order to make yourself look bad, you actually have to play very well, because anybody can play badly, but it takes a lot of
Yeah.
effort just to make a note come out of a trombone. You can't just blow into it and out comes some sound.
Yeah. It takes, I know, I've never played the trombone myself, but I know it takes a special skill. And when you're moving the slide, you have to know like the specific place to move it to for certain notes and the pressure you have to get for it. I mean, it's not like, I played trumpet for a little while in middle school, and there are just certain combinations that you put, but for the trombone you have to like take the slide to specific areas, and I think that's hard.
Yeah.
It takes some learning
To hit the
do.
mark every time, because it's
Yeah.
not like pressing
When
a
you-
button.
And if you've seen
Yeah.
someone play trombone, they just like keep going back and forth to different places because the notes go to different
Yeah,
places.
yeah.
But, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that quite a lot.
I had a friend who had a trombone, and I was fascinated by the instrument just because of the mechanical movement of that section of the trombone, And I was desperate to have a go, and I said, "Oh, please, let me try it." And he said, "Yeah, sure. Hold it this way, with your left hand, and put your hand on the slidey piece." And I said, "Okay." And I didn't realize how slidey that thing is. And we were
Yeah.
on a
yeah.
stage where he'd been playing, and I got up on the stage. I said, "Oh, let me have a go." And I took the thing off him, and that sucker just flew out of my hand
You can fly out, yeah.
and went sailing away. And of course, they're quite
gosh.
delicate kind of things. And he was nearly going to grab me by the neck and kill
Yeah.
me because, if you bend these things or dent them, it takes a lot of
Yeah.
effort to fix them again. So fortunate.
Yeah, you've got to keep that oiled because
Yeah, but
Absolutely,
fortunately
yeah.
it was fine. But boy, I never did get the opportunity to try it out. You know.
Well, I would be interested, listeners, if any of you played trombone, and as we go through these instruments, let us know on the Babel conference, like what everyone played. So we've learned that Justin played the trumpet.
The trumpet for a few
Yeah.
years, yeah.
Awesome. I'm sure we will learn a lot about each other as we go through this. So I was thinking about Riker and his personality and what type of band he would be in. And the first one that came to my mind, and I could just see him up on stage. And I have seen Chicago on stage and in concert. And I can just see Riker up there blowing his horn and rocking out to some good old tunes of Chicago. So that's my band pick for Riker.
I think that's a good one. And yeah, their horn section and trombone are pretty prominent in a lot of their songs. So I could imagine him just like having a great time doing that. Because we usually see him in like a jazz setting, but to have him in more of like a rock setting would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but you can't forget the fact that the trombone, being a brass instrument, it's also used in orchestras. So he could have been part of a symphony orchestra, performing at the Rockefeller Center or something.
That's true.
There you go.
It's a very versatile instrument because, not only do you see it, it could be something classical, it could be rock, it could be jazz. There's also like a lot of soul music that has that kind of horn section or R&B. And so it seems like it's pretty versatile with what you can. And then, of course, going back further, there were, big bands where they had prominent brass sections and trombone and all that. So there's a lot of different like genres you can use it in, I think.
Yeah. So, Justin, what band do you have Riker playing in?
Well, like I'm a big fan of jazz, and I know he plays jazz a lot on TNG that you see, but I would have liked to see him be part of like Louis Armstrong's All-Stars group in the 50s and 60s. So during that time, he had a guy named Trummy Young who played trombone, who was a fantastic trombone player and really added a lot to what he was playing then. And I could see Riker in that role just having a great time with Louis Armstrong.
Oh, yeah. That is a great pick. Yep.
I'm wondering
Excellent.
if he'd qualify to be in Earth, Wind and Fire, because they had a great brass section. You listen to any of their songs and they just open with just that tremendous brass piece, and he could fit right in.
I think you're right. I think the thing I think about Riker is he could probably use that trombone and fit in just about like anywhere, and he would have a great time with it. So I could definitely see Earth, Wind and Fire or some other like R&B or soul group that has a brass section, definitely. Or maybe like James Brown or something like that. That'd be cool. I could see him just having such a great time.
I know. He's got such an outgoing personality that he would just fit in any type of genre I can see.
Maybe that's why you never see him really sitting down on the Enterprise. He's always standing up.
And you don't see him as part of those classical performances that you see
Right.
the others part of. He's always standing up and playing. I think you're right. That's where he feels comfortable, and that is like the appropriate thing. If you're playing something that's not classical, you'll stand up and perform for the audience that way.
Yeah, a performance. Yeah.
I love it.
All right. Well, another very iconic musical instrument in The Next Generation is Picard's Ressican flute. And we see that in The Inner Light, the awesome episode, The Inner Light. And he also breaks it out again in Lessons. So, Tony, what do you think about this Ressican flute and how Picard learned how to play it?
Well, again, my theory is that Picard is a secret Jethro Tull lover. His exterior is that of a refined classicist, and he, you'd only find him in concert halls, sitting in a box looking down on the orchestra and enjoying Berlioz as he does in First
First
Contact.
Contact, I think is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I should know that. And but secretly, he's listening to "Living in the Past" with Jethro Tull. So that's where he's picked up. He's listened to Jethro, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to learn the flute." Which came in handy because when he had to live that life all over again, he knew what to do. It was instinctive.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I could see him as like an Ian Anderson type, just like jamming out on his flute while the band rocks it out, like Aqualung or something like that.
The question
Oh my
is, though,
goodness.
can he stand on one leg and play at the same time? Because that is the calling card of a great flautist.
Yeah. We usually see him on two legs. I don't know, how often do you even see Picard on like one leg doing anything? It's not dignified, is it?
No.
But, secretly in his ready room, just before Riker comes in unexpectedly, he might be standing on one leg practicing away. I'd like to think he does that.
Could be. Yep.
You have to emulate your hero,
it.
so that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right, Justin.
So when I was thinking about this, and you have to, because I was thinking, we could think of all kinds of things in a classical context, but I want to think outside of that. So the one that I thought about was the Moody Blues, because they did have a flautist. The one I was thinking of in particular was Nights in White Satin, which has a really nice flute part to it. And so, I could totally see Picard doing that. I mean, and also if you contrast it with Jethro Tull, for something like Nights in White Satin, it's kind of like stately and elegant and all of that. And I could totally see Picard fitting in doing that.
That's
Very nice.
awesome.
Very
Awesome.
nice.
You reacted. Was that your pick, Amy?
Well, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you guys have already mentioned like ones that I'm going to say, so I'm like,
Well, flute,
trying to...
there's not a long list, really.
Yeah, that's true. So when I was thinking Picard, I don't know why, but I was channeling the inner hippie that Picard has, in my opinion. So I went with the Mamas and the Papas and California Dreamin'.
Oh.
And I could just see
nice.
him, him and, sort of when he has his hair, it grows out a little bit longer and, him playing. And cause like,
Hippie Picard.
yeah, and the Resican flute isn't quite exactly the flute. So like your hippies and just like anything goes mantra. And so he's got his Resican flute, which is a little different. And
I forgot there is a nice flute part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that they had in California
I
Dreamin'.
can see him in San Francisco going, peace, love, and Earl Grey tea.
While he makes the Vulcan salute like you are.
Yep.
yes.
Good old Picard. Yeah, he probably listened to a lot of Grateful Dead and a lot of Jimi Hendrix.
But really, in the 24th century, are they really listening to a lot of 20th century music?
Hey, we're saying what they would be in if they were here now.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Plus the fact that every time they've had an adventure, particularly when they met Zefram Cochrane, they were listening to 20th century music, rock music, that is. So...
Well, Zefram Cochrane, that's what he wanted
Yeah,
to put
but-
in because it was only 100 years behind him.
Yeah. But,
Yeah, okay.
they would have thought, hey, we forgot about this stuff. This is cool.
And probably if we were to look at it, like, because Picard always goes to like the Dixon Hill, and that's more, 50s,
Yeah.
60s. So 70s isn't that too far away. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I like to think they're big 20th century aficionados because it's just such an interesting period of time, I guess.
It was a very interesting period of time. It was probably the most creative time, the late 60s in terms of what we like as music today. All the modern bands and rock bands and stuff come out of those times, and everything else is
diverged.
Everything else is derivative. I saw
It's a bit subjective because those things were combinations of earlier things as well. So
Right.
well, maybe, but I saw a poster for the theater show, or from that movie School of Rock, and the poster just had a kid on it dressed like a rock star, and he had a necktie tied around his head and some kind of a jacket on and a face, that looked like he was angry. And the early rock stars in the late 60s, they didn't do that. They weren't putting on a fashion statement, but their clothing became fashion statements later. And then kids picked up on it and then said, if you want to look like a rock star, you got to dress like these guys. But those guys weren't dressing like anybody else, so they had no role models to play on. Whereas, so everything is kind of derivative now. So you get a rock band out, they all have to play the guitars loud and bash the drums to bits and make some sort of a riff. I'm not saying they're bad, I'm just saying they didn't start it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, that's a separate conversation.
Yeah, that's right. I was getting rock political there. So,
All right. Well, another very recognizable instrument is Data's violin. And we see him play that in Elementary, Dear Data. We see him in The Ensigns of Command, Sarek, In Theory, and Inheritance. And as we discussed, Data also plays other instruments. He plays the oboe during In Theory and the guitar during Silicon Avatar. So, Tony, start us off. What do you think about Data and his violin?
well, my big problem with Data, if I'm going to have an issue with him at all, is that, and I think he mentions it in one episode, is that he can technically play the violin. He can play and reproduce the sound of any major violin player, violinist that has ever lived, and he can just duplicate that sound, and then you could sit in the audience, listen to him, and not tell the difference. So my thing about Data is he is essentially a synthesizer. He's
It's not. I don't know if that's entirely true, because there is one episode where he says that he's taken two styles and combined them, and Picard points out, well, that's how you make something new. That's creativity. So he is able to not just replicate, but also combine certain things into something new.
okay. I'll take that one. But I'm just saying that, if you asked him to play Shostakovich or something, then he'd grab a cello and just go for it. And
Yeah, and he'd find a technique or a performance and try to replicate it.
and then you close your eyes, listen, and you wouldn't know the difference, even if you're an aficionado. So the thing about Data is that, apart from the time when he combines two types or formats, which is creative, I just think he's capable of duplicating something, and that in itself lowers his ability, in my opinion. I'm being very, very, very
he is
controversial.
an android.
He is an
so-
android, yeah, yeah. But it's like a push a button and out comes the music. But
No. If you push a button on Data, he gets deactivated.
you've got to be careful which button you press. Yeah. But he would be great. I'm sure if Data was in a band, apart from playing the violin, he could probably, he could be like one of those, do you ever see those one-man band people? They have a drum on their back and they have cymbals on their knees, and he could guitar and then a mouth organ on a thing. And he could be one of those, and he could be a whole band all by himself. And goodness knows what.
Or maybe he wouldn't even need any instruments. He could just have like all of the elements of that come out as a sound from his mouth.
Yeah.
Like the whole performance.
Oh yeah, but the thing is that if the other people were struggling, for someone to come along and harmonize with them, then Data would be the guy to call. He'd just be the everyman, the musical everyman.
So not something specific with Data on, say, the violin or something like that, but just he would be the all-purpose musician.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he'd. I mean, he's always striving to shine and be above the rest. But that said, he's striving to do it. He's not actually getting there. Nobody's coming up and saying, "Oh, I listened to that, Itzhak Perlman violin concerto, and you were definitely better because you left him miles behind." But that's never going to happen for Data, unfortunately.
All right, Justin.
Interesting thoughts. I thought of primarily Data on the violin. I know he plays the oboe and the guitar, but I was thinking on the violin, and like as I was just thinking about what music has a prominent violin, I thought of the Dexy's Midnight Runners song "Come On Eileen," which has a really nice violin part.
Excellent.
It that starts it and it kind of goes through the whole part, and I'm just imagining the video for that, just putting in Data on the violin.
Nice.
So, and I
Very
like
good.
that song a lot. So,
Okay, so for my pick, I sort of went totally outside of the box. But so come with me and see if you can follow my thoughts. So I was thinking A Fistful of Datas, and they're in the holodeck in the Western. Okay. So, and in that one, we see Data in a lot of different characters. So I thought Data pulled off a fabulous woman. And so I've got Data playing with the Dixie Chicks, and he's playing.
all
Excellent.
right.
So he's channeling his country and his woman vibe, and he is going on tour with the Dixie Chicks. I love the Dixie Chicks. I think their fiddling and their violin playing is just awesome, and I could see him up there just jamming it with those ladies. So.
But he needs some like attitude for his stage performance.
Oh, he would mimic them. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
He could do a good hoedown, I think. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I'd
Wow,
like to
all
see him
right.
doing that.
Didn't think about that at all.
Well, music is a broad church, as we say in the music business.
Yeah.
At least I would if I was in it. But yeah, no. I mean, you can if you're a player, you can do anything. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are people that play lots of different instruments, which I'm always really impressed by. That people can do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to O'Brien's cello. And he plays this in Ensigns of Command, right?
And I mean, it's just like such a small thing, and a lot of people don't even like realize it. But he is there with a cello playing this piece at the beginning of Ensigns of Command. I think it's just like a short scene, and then Picard has to walk out because some situation comes up.
Right.
But he's there on the cello. It's established he plays it.
Yeah.
So, but we never. I know he may mention it in DS9 once or twice, but
Well, I haven't heard it mentioned yet, and I'm in season 4, but still have more seasons to
Memory
watch.
Alpha says it's there. I don't remember which episode.
Oh, okay.
But isn't it amazing that in Next Generation that you have all these characters on the ship who are musically gifted? I don't know who isn't musically gifted. Maybe
I want to see what instrument Worf plays. I don't think we ever see him play anything, do we?
isn't he a fan of Klingon opera?
No, he listens to it, but he doesn't play anything that I know
Right.
of. Oh, he sings. Oh, that's true. We could say that Worf sings. Yeah.
Well, maybe he puts a few strings on his batleth and twangs it.
That would be
Yeah.
great. But yeah, like as I was looking at this, I was thinking of instruments that people play. I wasn't thinking of people that sing, and Worf does sing Klingon opera. Huh.
Well,
Maybe
and
he could go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, like, could we see Worf as like an opera singer singing like Italian opera or something?
I don't know. I might see him more along the lines of like heavy metal, screaming,
Oh yeah,
headbanging,
definitely.
Oh,
the anger coming
metal
out
Worf.
through his
Yeah.
music. Yeah.
Yeah.
that would be pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was wondering like who sings, and we don't really see a lot of people singing. And I was thinking like going through the characters and then Beverly and her tap dancing, and I was thinking, well, maybe we could say performing arts, but I just left it as musical instruments.
But Miles
but
O'Brien
Worf-
sings. He sings the Minstrel Boy, doesn't he?
Oh
That is
yes,
true.
So-
that is
Yeah.
true.
He likes to.
Maybe he would be a singer of Irish ballads.
Yeah, he
in
likes
our
to warble
present
his
time.
voice. And I think Picard. No, Picard definitely sings because we see him singing some opera from what is it? From the
thought he was
Pirates
just
of
listening.
Penzance. He sings
Oh,
Gilbert.
that's right.
Gilbert
yeah,
and Sullivan.
Insurrection. He does. Yeah.
A Jolly Jack Tar, I think, is it?
Oh my gosh,
That's
okay,
right.
So
And,
we
well,
have two
we have Data
singers.
singing that too, and Worf joins in a bit, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So they're a
Yeah.
very talented bunch of people. And
Yes.
and they're all out there in space somewhere, wasting away when they should be on a stage. But
So where would you see O'Brien?
oh, he would definitely be in an a St. Patrick's Day Irish tribute band with an Aaron sweater and a bobble hat and a pint of Guinness, and he'd be grabbing the mic and singing all those Irish tunes that you have to sing on St. Patrick's Day. And yeah, he'd be stealing the show.
Maybe that's what Cole Meany actually does every St. Patrick's Day.
No, I got news for you there. He does that every day. He doesn't. He's Irish. He doesn't need St. Patrick's Day as an excuse.
There you go.
Actually, St. Patrick's Day is probably the day when he doesn't do it, and he takes a rest. Goes and watches.
Wow.
Goes and watches somebody else.
All right, Justin, what do you have for O'Brien? Whether his voice or his cello?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of his voice, so I was thinking of his cello. And it's interesting because, when you think of O'Brien and, I'm singing the Minstrel Boy and all, and like his character, it seems maybe a little bit different that he's doing the cello, but I kind of like it. And I see him doing like duets with Yo-Yo Ma on cello. I think that would be cool.
That would be fantastic.
I like that.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that came to mind.
Very good. So I was thinking with O'Brien and how like he's in engineering he's transporter chief in Next Gen. And so it's sort of, out of the limelight. And so I have him, and with his, heritage being Irish and all. So I have him in the pit playing with the orchestra and the music for Riverdance.
Oh.
Yes.
So he's there, he's creating music, but he's not in the limelight. He's in the background and letting the others shine. And I feel that's how O'Brien's role is in TNG.
Yeah.
But Tony, would he be playing for Riverdance?
Oh, no, he definitely would. But the thing about Riverdance is it focuses on the dancers, not the music players.
Right.
But he'd definitely be...
That's why I'm saying he's down below
just
the
supporting.
stage. He's
Yeah.
creating the music that they dance
Yeah,
to.
no, he definitely would do that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if they all got together in one room and jammed, what kind of sound do you think would come out?
Well, let's go through that once we get through everyone. That's a good question. So hang on to that, listeners. Start thinking. We've got a lot going on. But let's talk about where we've got Q, who's playing the trumpet in Deja Q.
Ooh, he's in a mariachi band.
He is.
He is, yeah.
Excellent. Oh my goodness.
And we know Q can do anything, and he chooses the mariachi band and the trumpet. So what do you think about that?
Makes him
Tony?
happy.
Yeah, I think he should definitely have a career in Mexican music. That's the way I see it, because he was good in that one. He'd be great in, what's the name of that band? Los Lobos. He'd be part of Los
Okay.
Lobos. Yeah.
All right.
Nice. Very good. All right, Justin.
Well, I thought of something different, and I thought it would be perfect. I mean, he plays in that mariachi style, and this fits into it. And I haven't done it so far, but I wanted to actually do some like humming and singing of my choice, if that's all right with you guys. Please
take it away.
So what I thought of it was I fell into a burning ring of fire. It went down, 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 and the flames went higher. I just love that song. I had to sing it. But it has such a great trumpet part, and it is kind of a bit in that mariachi style that was arranged for the Johnny Cash song. So
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is perfect. I love it, Justin.
But what if he's a secret Herb Alpert fan as well? And he likes the old Tijuana brass music.
Yeah.
Or Sergio Mendes, Brazil 66.
that could be.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like it fit so much like the scene that he does in Deja Q with this mariachi group.
Yeah.
But and it gave me an opportunity to sing. Thank you. And thank you, listeners. I hope it sounded
Okay.
It did. It sounded great. Oh my gosh.
You're hired. for the stage show.
Right.
The new musical stage production of Earl Grey coming to a theater near you.
I'm not that good. My wife is far more talented at singing and playing music than I am. But thank you.
So, question for you: since you did play the trumpet and you love that song,
Yeah.
did you ever play that song on the trumpet?
I
when you were
didn't
in school?
because I don't think I was even like aware of it at that point. So I was doing that in middle school, and I probably got more familiar with Johnny Cash and his music later on, like college and later. So
Yeah, me too.
no,
Yeah.
and I haven't picked the trumpet back up since then. So
Yeah.
but it is like a really great part that opens a song and that supports it, and it's just. That's
Yeah.
one of the things that makes. I mean, Johnny Cash is great anyway, but that's one of the things that just kind of adds to it and elevates it. So I could see, like, Q being part of the, because I think it's 2 or 3 trumpet players that contribute to that. I could see him being part of the little group.
Nice.
Justin, your singing has to be on a previously on Trek FM clip.
Okay.
That's the bit.
That's the one.
That's going
All
to
right, I'll
attract
let
the
Richard know.
audiences.
Okay. Or drive them away.
Excellent.
Well, for my cue selection, I was thinking how he can just be anything, anywhere. And so I went with Earth, Wind, and Fire. So
Okay.
I sort of.
So he's
pictured
playing the
him with
trumpet
that.
or doing something else?
No, in the trumpet. Yeah, trumpet. Yeah.
See, at first when you said he could be anything, I thought that he would just make himself into a giant trumpet that plays itself.
Well, I was thinking like Earth, Wind, Fire. The name of the group was drawing
okay.
me to his infinite powers. That
That's
is
cool.
the Earth, Wind, and Fire. So
Nice. Yeah, I could see that. I could see him having a good time.
yeah,
Definitely. Although, I don't know, like, if you were in a band with Q, how do you deal with an omnipotent band member? You have to, I think, keep them happy or they could just throw you out anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be a real pain. Because if you didn't
yeah, and
match up to his standards,
You'd be
you'd
like,
just
snap.
That's it. You'd be facing the Borg in the Delta Quadrant in a second.
yeah, if we're looking really at his character, he would be the one act show, like because he wants all eyes on him, and he'd be the main stage. So I don't know if putting him in a band is the best idea.
Yeah. In Encounter at Farpoint, when he came out on that throne through the curtains,
Oh, yeah, Judge Q.
it just reminded me of David Bowie sitting on that chair singing Major Tom. It had the same kind of imagery in my head. So I imagine if he's on a stage with his trumpet, he'll come out in his throne with his robes on and just start rocking the place.
There you go.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah, because he's Q, because he can.
He is.
That's his stage persona.
All right, so we've got a very small part. Geordie plays the mandolin in Cupid.
Badly.
When he, yes, when Worf protests, I am not to marry man.
When he breaks his mandolin.
Yes. So, what do you see for this, Tony?
Oh my goodness me. Well, he definitely would have to join people like Rod Stewart, who has a lot of mandolin in his early songs. And he definitely would be in the band with Rod Stewart fronting the band, and Geordie would be there in the background just, jamming out along. So, yeah, I think Geordie's a secret Rod Stewart and the Faces fan myself.
Awesome.
All right.
Very good.
Nice.
Okay, Justin.
Well, so what came to mind for me, after he has a lot of lessons, right? Because he has to get good at this before he can really join the group. But, what I thought of was there are some great REM songs that have mandolin, like Losing My Religion. So I was thinking he could, if he was good, he could support that and do a great job in a song like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
that was what I thought of, because when I think of mandolin, actually, that's the first song that I think of because it's so prominent and I love the song.
Yeah, that is a really good pick. So I have to be honest, this one was probably the most difficult for me to think of.
It's not an instrument that's used a lot.
Yeah,
So-
and in part, he's not that good. So
Yeah.
we will go along with your premise of, okay, Jordy's had lots of years of practice, and he's really, really good. And so, yeah, the only thing I could think of, and I love this band, it's going back to my country roots, Diamond Rio. But on every album that Diamond Rio has out, like they have 9 songs, and then the 10th song, well, back in the day when, you know, you had 10 songs on an album, that 10th song is just pure instrumental. And I can just see Jordy jamming out with that instrumental song, not even, you know, just ad-libbing, and, you know, because I think he's creative, definitely. How many times he's had to solve an engineering crisis. So I see him in Diamond Rio. And listeners, if you haven't heard of Diamond Rio, they are amazing. I love their music. But every album has that just an instrumental, fun song that they jam out to.
Oh, interesting. I may have to check it out, because that is the first one that we mentioned here that I haven't heard of, because what I know about country isn't as deep as some other things, but all right.
I could also see him with Bruce Hornsby, because Bruce Hornsby had a song called Mandolin Man.
That's right.
And one of my all-time favorite songs that has a mandolin in it is a very early Elton John song called The Holiday Inn, which is on an album called Madman Across the Water, I think. I'll get those mixed up, or it could be on... I can't remember. But anyway, it opens with a great mandolin piece. The Elton John band had a guy called Davy Johnson in it, and he was just a gifted mandolin player. But, you know, in the 23rd century, I guess an Elton John tribute band playing that song would have to have Geordie also.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Very good.
I like it.
All right. So we get to see, in theory, Keiko is playing the clarinet. So.
Yep.
What?
Talk to us about that.
She does. She plays the clarinet. I mean, it's very brief, but
Yeah.
it's there.
This is the instrument that I played when I was in school.
Ah, nice.
So I started in middle school, and then when I moved up to high school, I just stopped it. I'm like, I can't be a band geek. I'm sorry. So I just played it. I was in middle school 4 years, so 6th to 9th grade.
Awesome. I have a lot of respect for that, because I look at it with like all the keys and stuff, and I'm like, how do you know what to play? Just looks complicated to me. But
that's what I think about the trumpet when you said that. I'm like, yeah, you have to push.
But the trumpet
there's
has
only
the three. There's only 3 valves, but there are different combinations. So for me, that makes sense. Like either you do this, and this.
No,
but for the clarinet, it looks like there's all
fingers.
these. Yeah, but there's all these combinations. For me, it's like if there's 3 valves, there's only a certain number of combinations. But with all these different keys on the clarinet, it seems like there's a lot of different combinations. But
true, mathematically, you are correct. The number of combinations, I agree. Awesome.
Seems higher. Well, although on the trumpet, you make up for that by having a different strength to your the breath
embouchure,
that you're putting
right?
in for the different octaves for the notes. Yeah,
that's right.
The embouchure,
well, yeah, and a little bit true with the clarinet as well.
Okay.
All right, Tony.
Well, I'm just wondering why you stopped playing the clarinet.
Well, because I didn't want to be one of those band geeks. It was all, peer pressure.
But you were going to grow up to be a Star Trek geek instead.
Yeah.
Didn't know that at the time.
Did you ever see a movie called Mr. Holland's Opus?
Yes.
With Richard
I think
Dreyfuss
I did
in
see
it?
Yeah.
And the girl who plays the clarinet, she can't quite hit a note. And she wants to give up, and he encourages her. And eventually she does it. And then at the end of the movie, they form an orchestra. And she comes in and plays the clarinet in the orchestra. But she's gone on to be the governor of the state, whatever state they were in, I think. So you could have been the governor of...
missed opportunities.
Yeah. And all
that's
because...
a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, but it all starts with a clarinet. And that's where,
Okay.
Well, it all starts with a good teacher.
Well, I think
Let's be
Keiko would
honest.
have to be in one of those all-girl bands, all-girl orchestra bands.
Oh.
Yeah. She'd have to be, sometimes you go places and they have these girls doing the 1940 hits from World War II. They had a particular sound. It was a bit Glenn Miller-ish and whatever.
Oh, nice.
But Yeah, Keiko would definitely be in in a wind section. I nearly got those mixed up. With an all-girl band, and she'd be doing her Artie Shaw and her, Strangers on the Shore. I don't know if you're familiar with those songs, but they're all heavily clarineted pieces of music. Yeah, she'd definitely do that.
I like it. Well done.
Nice.
Justin, what do you have for
Well, actually,
Keiko?
the thing...
The Space Girls. They could be the Space Girls. Sorry. It's just that came to me in a flash. She could be musical Space Girl. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, the first thing that came to mind for me, I'm a big Beatles fan, so the first thing that came to mind for me is When I'm 64, which has a really great clarinet part. That starts it, and it kind of goes throughout, but
Yes.
Yes.
I thought of that because I love that song, and it has a really prominent clarinet. So I could see maybe that would mean Keiko would be like, a studio musician. it's contributing to different things when clarinet's needed, but I could see that. Yeah.
Oh, that.
All this music.
All right. So this one was probably my most boring selection. I really had a hard time. And with the fact that I even played the clarinet, but I couldn't even think of anything. But I know that she very much is into her culture and heritage. And so I have her in the Japan Philharmonic Orchestra.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it reflects poorly that I think she's so boring and would just, not boring, but just so typical and just would be in the orchestra. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I chose.
Well, no, I think it's a good choice. Something else as we were talking about that I thought of, I'm also a big fan of Gershwin. I thought of Rhapsody in Blue, which has a really great clarinet part, especially at the beginning and throughout. So
yeah.
There's actually a lot of cool uses of the clarinet because it has kind of this like soaring range and style to it.
Well, yeah, and I was thinking jazz, and like you said, Louis Armstrong before, but I'm like, is that really Keiko? I couldn't really.
I don't know if I'd see her
match
doing jazz, but I could see her
Yeah.
just like sitting down like in a studio contributing a clarinet part or being part of like an orchestra. I could totally see that.
Yeah, I like your pick. Yeah.
I love it.
There's so many good
love
choices.
it.
Yeah.
So also in theory, we have Jenna Desora. Jenna is Data's program love interest there.
Girlfriend
and she
for a bit.
Girlfriend, okay. And she plays the flute.
A regular flute, not a Ressigan flute.
Yes, just a regular flute. So Tony, where do you have Jenna?
Oh, I have to tell you, I'm very unfamiliar with this character, but again, she could join Keiko. She'd be with Keiko. I mean, they'd have to get together and make a little palm, what do they call it? Palm orchestra, a little after dinner kind of orchestra where you just get 2 or 3 musicians around and everybody's being genteel and drinking their Earl Grey tea from china teacups, and they'd be out there playing in the background with a palm court orchestra. That's what I was trying to think of. I think they're called palm court orchestras because there was a palm tree in a pot somewhere, and that's how the name stuck. I don't know why, but anyway, that's. Okay. But I could see her doing that. But I have to say, I'm not really terribly familiar with that character. So
She's just in the one episode.
Yeah, and her and Keiko seem to become friends, and they have the shared, and they're sitting down after their little concert and talking and stuff. So I can see them developing a relationship and starting their little after dinner musical group. I like it.
Yes. And then she could tell the stories about one time at band camp.
Oh, things that happen at band camp.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Jenna's
wasn't
always
part of it,
picking
but
the
I've heard
wrong
stories.
guy.
What?
Yeah. She's always picking the wrong guy.
Yeah.
He's always a jerk, it seems like.
Yeah. All right, Justin, what do you have for Jenna?
Well, my choice is something that Tony had actually mentioned earlier when we were talking about Picard, because the way that I think of Jenna Desora actually is you see her, it seems like she's kind of like a little shy in the episode, but I see her as somebody that would just like be one of those people that maybe like in person would be shy, but when they get on a stage and they have to perform, they're just like unbelievable. So I had actually imagined her as part of Jethro Tull, like playing the flute and rocking out to it for some reason.
Nice.
But I know we had talked about that before. But I would just like to see like if there was that side of her that could just get up there at a performance and just like really get into it and just go crazy. So
Well, generally performers do that, don't they? I mean, by day they can be quite introvert people, but give them a guitar or a trumpet or something and let them loose, and suddenly they're
even
an
a crowd,
entirely
and it's
different
like,
person.
whoa.
Yeah, and you get
Yeah,
up there and
yeah,
they just
so-
do their thing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So mine also has already been mentioned. So I've got Jenna, and I just thought of the name of the band because I feel that she is very all over the place with her emotions. And so she's moody. So I have her Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin.
oh, all right. So I stole that earlier.
Yep. So,
I could see that, and it's a nice gentle kind of part in
yeah.
that song. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so one that I think is Justin's favorite, we have Nella Darren. She
All right.
plays the piano in lessons with Picard, playing his flute. So, Nella Darren, Tony, what do you think? Where would she be?
Well, if you're a piano player, you can be in any band, but you know for me, the piano player is always Elton John. You know, that's my default piano player. So whenever I hear anyone playing a piano, I want them to play something from Elton John's early collection. So she would have to do it for me. She'd have to do that. She'd have to reproduce some Elton John stuff for me. Not necessarily sing, but, yeah, sorry.
Well, that would be really awesome because Elton John has his show here in Las Vegas, and I have seen it, and he's amazing. How old is he now? And he is still rocking it.
He's well into his 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been doing
He's
it for a long time.
Yep. And so I could see, Darren right up there along with him. Yeah. Awesome pick. I was going to choose Elton John, but I thought, I'm going to hold off on that. Had a sneaking suspicion there, Tony.
Well, I grew up, that was my era, in the early 70s. You'd always find me with a set of headphones stuck to my head and listening over and over and over just Elton John music. I finally fell out of favor with him basically when that first band he had, which were great together, he decided to move on and change the musicians he worked with, and he broke up with Bernie Taupin, who wrote the lyrics, and for some reason his music just changed, and he was still Elton John, but the music was kind of
When did that happen?
I'm going to say around 76, 77. He brought out
makes sense.
he brought out
I kind of
he brought out an album called Blue Moves, and from then on it was all kind of not good.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of part ways with him a bit around that time, and when he was doing that kind of music, or like Philadelphia Freedom, which is like, just roll my eyes out a bit.
Yeah.
but the stuff he was doing like the early to mid 70s is great.
And it went unnoticed until recently. I mean, a song that's now played on the radio, Tiny Dancer, goes out so many times. I think that was used in a movie, end title to some movie recently. But that I hear that now more on the radio than I ever did in the 70s.
Interesting.
All right, Justin, your pick.
Well, so, I mean, also we should mention, it's not like a kind of regular piano that Nella Darren has. She has this, like, it's kind of like a keyboard. She said she got it from Planet Madeline too, and it kind of rolls up, and seems like somehow she can play, everything she wants to, even though there's not 88 keys on it, but whatever. It's kind of a magic piano. But like when I thought about it, I thought that she might be the kind of, because like Nella Darren, I think for the most part, she's kind of like calm and reserved. But I thought of her as someone like if she was doing music like in around our time ish that we've been talking about, that she would be the kind of person that might write songs like about her true feelings, and that she might be like a Fiona Apple kind of performer. I don't know why I thought that, but I love Fiona Apple, and
I'm not
she
familiar
plays
with
piano. She had some fairly big hits in the 90s, I think. Criminal and a few other things. Anyway, I love her music a lot. She played piano, and she first became prominent when she was pretty young, maybe like 19 or 20 or something like that. And I think she still performs and writes music, but yeah, Tony, you familiar or not?
I'm not, and I
Oh
have
my
a
goodness, guys.
broad range of musical knowledge, but there are one or two that do escape me. I do apologize.
Well, I like one of the eras of music that I'm into big time is the 90s, so I have quite a few of those things that I love, but I'm sure some listeners will know Fiona Apple and her music. But
Okay.
anyway, go and listen. Just look up like Fiona Apple. Criminal might be the one that she's best known for. It's a great song, but
Okay.
that's how I imagined her, as someone getting her feelings out through writing music and through lyrics. Yeah.
Oh. Well, you said that. I'm just going to throw in an artist that probably some people don't know, but Vienna Tang. She's amazing.
That's
and
one I haven't heard of.
yeah, well, that's not my pick. That reminds me when you're
what kind
talking.
of music?
She's a songwriter. That's how I have her in my genre in my iPod. But yeah, she's just a songwriter. So sort of a slower, but just writing songs from her heart. I maybe coffee house type of music.
Okay.
Something you would hear in a coffee house.
And I like that kind where it's like a singer-songwriter kind of music.
Yeah, she's a great songwriter. So, all right. But my pick for her with the piano, and like you said, because it's more of like a keyboard, so she's very versatile. She can, synthesize music in and make her keyboard sound however she wants. And so I'm putting her on stage with Billy Joel.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
had that as a possibility.
Oh,
yeah, because he's such a great piano player.
Yeah.
He's the piano man.
He is.
Yeah.
But that's a great choice.
Yeah.
You thinking she would just like accompany him? He'd also be playing piano, and she'd be playing her portable one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice pick.
All right. So to Tony, let me just run through it now. So we're going to see if we can figure out what type of sound all of these characters would have if they showed up at the same time to put on a concert. So we have a trombone, a Ressican flute, a violin, cello, trumpet, mandolin, clarinet, flute, and a piano. All right, Tony.
Well,
What kind of music are we going to hear from all of this?
well, assuming that Data can sing and Miles O'Brien can sing,
He proved in Nemesis that he can sing.
yeah,
Data can sing.
and
Yes.
that they could harmonize.
And Worf can sing too. If we're throwing in singers.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I'd like them to be like Crosby, Stills, and Nash,
Oh, all right.
Wow.
and come out with a sound. And maybe somebody else could come in and be the Neil Young part. But yeah, I definitely can see them coming out with a Crosby, Stills, and Nash kind of sound.
Nice. Well, they're one of my favorites, so I would
Yeah,
love
that
to
is
see
a
that.
good. Tony, that's so good. I love
Well,
that.
you mentioned
Yeah, yeah.
Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues. Oh no, I'm getting that wrong. Let me see. Am I getting that wrong?
No, that's right.
No, I am getting it. No, I'm not getting it wrong that you said it. I'm getting the song that they sang mixed up with a different song. I was going to suggest that they might sing. But no, yeah, definitely a Crosby, Stills, and Nash kind of sound. That
like
would be
it.
natural for them.
I could totally see that. I love it. All right, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, you look at all of these together, and I mean, you could go a couple of different ways. I mean, sure, you could put them all together in like a classical group or something like that. But I mean, there's just like a lot of different like instruments and styles, and let me think about this. I don't know. Maybe we could go with like a really kind of unconventional combination for well, maybe we'll put in like Data on guitar, and maybe we'll say he plays like electric guitar instead of the acoustic guitar he plays in Silicon Avatar. I think it could be a cool combination to really get them to express themselves, for it to be like a funk or soul group where they could just like, because a lot of times in that music they do have like horn sections or like stuff that accompanies them. Clarinet
and they're all
or
over the place,
whatever is maybe violin, maybe like a little different, but I think that could make for a really interesting sound. And I'm trying to think like who would be singing. I think it would be hilarious if it was like Picard doing like soul or funk. That would be great if somehow he could do that. I could probably see Riker doing it more, but I love that kind of music, and I'm just trying to think like if you could throw all that together and make it work, I would pay a lot of money to see that.
Yes. Yeah. I'd like Picard's voice to come out sounding like Ozzy Osbourne. That would be amazing.
That would be pretty great. Yep.
Well, for my mashup group, I was just trying to think of a group that has a wide range and can do anything in any style. And so for me, I'm going with Queen, maybe the Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, all right.
But like because when I look at Queen, like they can just do everything, and and Bohemian Rhapsody gets the little classical and the little
for sure.
you know?
It's like a little opera. Worf would appreciate it.
Exactly.
That is an excellent choice.
It's a great choice.
Yeah, I can just see them all doing it, and somebody saying, "I see a little silhouette of a man."
Oh yeah, the Queen tribute band on the holodeck. I'd love to see that.
Yes, let's bring it.
Yeah. Wow. Do you think they have a Glee club on the Enterprise? You know?
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know about that.
No, they do, because somewhere they all have to get together and practice. If they're going to be a band, they can't just turn up and do it. They got to practice somewhere. So maybe they have a Glee club, and they all get together on a Tuesday evening when they're not playing poker.
Oh, if you mean practicing. I thought by Glee Club you meant like a certain kind of that music, but yeah.
No, but they would do it. Like there'd be little episodes or adventures that they all have, but effectively they'd all be specializing in something. And they'd have little...
Star Trek The Next Generation,
and
the
then
musical.
and then they'd have little squabbles about stuff. And no, Q, you can't play everything.
Tony, you need to go out to the fan film community and tell them they need to make The Next Generation the musical.
Yes.
It's got to happen.
It's got to happen.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
Yeah, it is. And then they'd all have a squabble and a fight over what they were going to do. But in the end, when they all got together on the stage, they just floor everybody because they'd be so good.
I think they'd be fighting over the interpretation of scientific findings or something like that.
Yeah, but it would be awesome. But another thing I thought of, we're leaving a crucial piece of the puzzle out of this, and that is the holodeck, because you can recreate anything inside the holodeck. Now, I may be going off at a tangent on this one, but there is a kind of a precedent. And that is to bring in the crew of the original Enterprise. And to bring in Kirk, because he has a strange singing voice. Spock, who plays his lyre.
Yeah.
And Uhura who's just got the most magnificent voice.
And Scotty on bagpipes,
and
right?
Scotty on bagpipes. And to bring them all in on the holodeck and have them all jamming away, I just thought, why not? Because Picard
let's
knows
just mash
Kirk,
up all...
because he met him in Generations in the Nexus.
Yeah, they're all in the Nexus.
They're all in the Nexus.
But you know what? Let's just mash up like all the different series. We'll have Harry Kim on his clarinet. We'll have the Doctor with his singing voice and all that.
Well, the Doctor is on the Enterprise because he appeared in...
not the Doctor from Voyager, but another like Mark I hologram.
Yeah,
but
but
sure,
he can
yeah.
sing. I'm just
If
saying.
it's added to his subroutines.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But no, that would be really fun just to have like a holodeck mashup of just like everybody in Star Trek who plays an instrument and just have like a huge day-long jam. Or maybe
Yeah.
even, since it's the holodeck, just have like a festival and invite people and stuff. So that'd be fun.
And you could have what's his name? The guy Vic Damone. What's the character?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Vic Fontaine,
Vic Fontaine.
from
Deep
DS9, and I love him, and I love that kind of music. So you could have him be in the lounge
Yeah.
singer,
Yeah.
and Odo playing piano maybe because he can do that.
Just-
So and Kira singing, which she, anyway.
But there should be a
Complicated, but
special
yeah.
episode where everybody's just jamming together and just having a great time, and then the
Star Trek the Jam.
jam, bring back the jam. And then the whatever episode that is, it just ends where we just see everybody back in their quarters and they've got their little earphones stuck in their head, and you can't actually hear what they're listening to, but their heads are nodding to the music. And you know they're listening to something funky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Very nice.
All right. Well, what a fun discussion. Tony, again, thank you for this great idea and for coming on Earl Grey. Really great to have you. Where can people find you online?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, online, on Twitter, Shamrock165, on the Babel conference with, I do pop up and put things in there from time to time. So that's where you find me. If you want to say something about continuing mission, you'll find me there. And Melodic Treks. Love to hear some people commenting on what's happening with that. Yep.
Okay. Again, thank you,
Excellent.
and just pleasure to have you on.
A real treat for me to be here. Real treat.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great idea. Had a lot of fun. I listened to some music to prepare for this, so that's always great. So thank you.
All right, listeners. Well, for next week's episode, actually, we will be off next week because we are going to be enjoying our Star Trek Las Vegas convention. So, but the week after that, we will get to our final episode. I'm a little sad of our favorite
It's not our
character
final
moments.
episode because there's the movies too.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
Our
So,
final
good.
regular season. Yeah.
Yes, our season 7. Oh, but it still makes me sad.
Yeah.
Our favorite character moments. So, listeners, if you want to watch a couple of episodes from season 7, and hopefully we might pick some of yours. Well, it's been so much fun talking about characters who play musical instruments on The Next Generation, but that isn't the only thing we've been talking about here on the network. Here's what you might have missed elsewhere on Trek FM.
Previously on Trek.fm, Meta Treks.
You can see the Gene Roddenberry playing with the idea of what we could become given our full potential, and the aliens that have achieved that looking down and kind of criticizing or examining or evaluating humanity from a moral standpoint, almost like Q does in putting humanity on trial. There's a sense in which humanity is being judged by these morally superior aliens that are genuinely pacifists.
Or in the case of Q, genuinely narcissistic.
The Edge, a Star Trek Discovery podcast.
He's not trying to be a Starfleet officer. He doesn't care about doing that in the context of, well, because I want to prove that I'm a Starfleet officer. But I think that, and again, this is what perhaps in hindsight, after the fact, he starts to realize that who he is aligns itself or can align itself with what Starfleet stands for.
To the journey!
I was wondering why they didn't do a mind meld at the end of the episode.
Why would they do that?
Because Tressa has 90 some odd years, 94 or 96 years of life experience, and Tuvok is a Vulcan, so he can mind meld. Why wouldn't he do that?
Because there's no reason to do that. You're just going around mind melding with people willy-nilly just because they're old and you want their knowledge? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, it's like space genealogy.
Dude, boundaries.
Melodic Treks.
And, I talked to the producers when I first did the show, and the first thing they had me do was take a combination of the da 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 da, the Sandy Courage wonderful horn theme, and Jerry's da-da-da-da-da-da, his theme for the first movie, and make a theme out of those, combine them. So I did it electronically, and they said, good enough. And I said, look, this is not my specialty. And they said, never mind, you got it. So 18 years later, that was it.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
Check out all these shows and join the conversation about your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe and beyond. You'll find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're an Apple user, be sure to hit the subscribe button in Apple Podcasts on iPhone, iPad, or Apple TV, or the desktop iTunes app to get the latest episodes as soon as they are published. And please leave us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show.
If you're not an Apple user, we've got you covered as well. You can find our shows on Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, in most third-party apps, and you can stream and download the MP3 file from our website or grab that RSS link.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and there are many ways for you to do that. The best place to join in the larger conversation is the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type Babel, B-A-B-E-L, into the search field on Facebook, and it should come right up.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can use the form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and select Earl Grey. That will come right to us, and we might read your email on the show. You can also find the network on Twitter at TrekFM and on Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM. So, Justin, where can people contact you when you're not continuously watching Picard and Nella Darren make music together?
Oh, what was that? I was watching Picard and Nella Darren making some music. Did you ask me a question?
You're so funny. I was like, Justin, where are you?
I was literally watching a video of Picard and Nella. I'm sorry, I just can't help it. In all the spaces where I'm not talking, that's what I'm watching. But on the occasions when I'm not doing that, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek. I'm tweeting out my Season 6 rewatch of The Next Generation. And you can find me hanging around the Babel Conference on Facebook. And Amy, where can people contact you when you're not listening to Riker playing the trombone in whatever group you'd like him to play in?
Yes, he can just be anywhere. I'll listen to him all day long. You can find me here on the network. I co-host The Edge with Patrick Devlin, and that's about Star Trek Discovery. Oh yeah, guess what? I'm on Twitter too. I'm at Miss Amy Nelson, and I am tweeting about my Deep Space Nine watch, and I'm currently in Season 4. Getting very good. But my favorite place is right here on the Babel Conference.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/TrekFM. That's patreon.com/TrekFM to get all the details. Perks include early access to episodes, exclusive content, producer credits, and more, available through our special patrons website, the Patron Zone. It requires a great deal of money to produce, host, and distribute these shows each month. We really appreciate any support you can give us and hope you'll join the team. Again, you'll find all the details at patreon.com/TrekFM.
We'd like to take this opportunity and recognize our current associate producers. They are Norman Lau, Justin Ozer, Michael Huter, and Thomas Appel. Thank you for supporting Trek FM and especially Earl Grey. Listeners, join us next time for another cup of Earl Grey.
Star Trek The Next Generation, the musical! It should be here soon!
Great joy and gratitude.